Julie, I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and convene the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency's Regional Plan Implementation Committee. And the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. So we'll deem the agenda approved. We'll move on to election of chair and vice chair. And since I have the mic, I'm going to nominate. And I was going to nominate Vince Hunningen as chair and Jessica Diss as vice chair. Jessica just left the meeting and is going to tune in on the phone, but she said that I didn't twist her arm too hard and she's willing to do that. So unless there's somebody else who wants to chair or vice chair. I'm not hearing any. Then I'll accept a motion.
I'm sorry, can we
Oh.
quickly do a roll call to determine a quorum?
Oh, I'm so sorry. See, I don't have my cheat sheet on this committee.
Just direct it to Maria.
I'm sorry. Maria, will you call the roll for this committee?
Miss Aldine. Here. Miss Diss. Miss
Here.
Gustafson.
Here,
Miss Gustafson.
here.
Miss Hill.
Here.
Mr. Honigman.
Here.
Mr. Settlemeyer.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other corrections, John?
Yes, Madam Chair. We would like to change the agenda to reschedule the housing item. However, whether it's you or Vince or whoever's running the meeting at that time, make sure we invite the public who came here to speak on that. To do
Okay,
So
Great.
By housing item, do you mean the achievable definition item?
item number 5 on our agenda.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, did everyone catch that? That we're going to table that item, but if there's public that are here to participate in that one, then we will take their public comment. Okay. In my rush to get through this, I went right to election of chair and vice chair and made a nomination for Vince Hunningen to a chair and Jessica Diss to vice chair. So I'll make that motion. And unless there's anyone else interested, will you call the roll, Maria?
Miss Aldine.
Yes.
Miss Diss.
Yes.
Mr. Honigman.
Yes.
Miss Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Settlemeyer.
Yes.
Miss Gustafson.
Yes. Hi, Vince, you can take over.
Madam Chair. Motion passes.
Great. I was hoping you were just going to keep running things and I could sit back, but all right. Thank you. Should I go over the remote meeting?
Yes,
rules
please.
Okay, great. All right. So for the members of the public who are joining us remotely, to observe the meeting, go to trpa.gov under the calendar header, click on Governing Board Hybrid Meeting for February 22nd, 2023. There you will find a link to the public webinar hosted on Zoom. To address the committee members directly with your comments, raise your hand in Zoom by clicking the raise hand at the bottom of your screen at the appropriate agenda item. With your hand raised, you'll be unmuted by a TRPA staff and have 3 minutes to address the committee. If you've used the dial-in numbers to join us by telephone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand and be unmuted. To remote committee members, if you wish to speak, please also raise your hand in Zoom. You'll find the hand icon on the bottom of your screen. Remote committee members may not use the chat box to make any comments or to have sidebar conversation. Please remember to mute your mic unless speaking to cut down on background noise. Finally, I'd like to ask all remote members to turn on their cameras if they're able. And members of the public who have joined us in person, you can raise your hand at the appropriate time for public comment and you'll be called up to the front to speak. Committee members who are in person, please raise your hand if you wish to comment and speak clearly in the microphone in front of you. If you're viewing the webinar on a personal computer, Please ensure that your microphone and speakers are turned off to prevent audio feedback into the room. All right, so we've approved the agenda. We've elected our chair and new vice chair. So now we have to go on to agenda item 3, approval of the minutes. We have a set of minutes from the January 25th, 2023 meeting on page 25. Does anyone have any changes to make? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented, and all in favor, say aye.
First, I'm sorry, I just need
Oh.
to interrupt. Do you need a motion? I didn't hear
Oh,
anybody
yes, that's right, sorry.
actually make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Great, all right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, passes, perfect, sorry. It's my first meeting here and it's it's gonna be a few slip ups, sorry about that, John. All right, so let's see, agenda item 4, we're continuing with, I see today. Okay, so that is an informational presentation on proposed amendments to Washoe County's Tahoe area plan to allow single-family condominium uses in Special Area 1 of the Incline Village Commercial Regulatory Zone. Information on this agenda item can be found on page 279 of your packet. As a reminder to the public, after committee discussion on this item, you may raise your hand in person or be called on in Zoom to be unmuted by TRPA staff to share your comments. So Jacob is going to introduce this item and the staff from Washoe County. Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jacob Stock, Senior Long Range Planner with TRPA. And as you said, I'm just here to introduce an informational presentation by Washoe County staff about a proposed amendment to the county's Tahoe area plan. And this item is for informational purposes only. No action is required at this time, but we look forward to hearing your comments and any comments from the public following the presentation. So the Tahoe area plan was approved in 2021. It encompasses the entirety of Washoe County's jurisdiction in the basin. This proposed amendment aims to allow single-family housing limited to condominiums in Special Area 1 of the Incline Village Commercial Town Center. This zoning change will allow for the option to subdivide multifamily rentals into owner-occupied condominiums. The amendment also codifies an existing policy in the plan requiring that condominiums are only allowed in this zone when part of a mixed use or affordable housing development. You'll be hearing more from Washoe County staff, Courtney Weike, about the justification for this amendment. So a little background, a development code amendment applying this change has already been approved by the Washoe County Board. That was on January 17th. Governing board approval is still required for the amendment to go into effect. TRPA staff review any area plan amendments for regional plan conformance. We've reviewed an initial draft of the initial environmental checklist for this amendment and returned comments to county staff. At this time, we don't anticipate any conformance issues with the county's proposal. Based on your comments today, Washoe County will work with us to complete any revisions and bring an amendment to APC and back to RPIC next month. If APC and RPIC recommend adoption, we anticipate holding a governing board hearing in April. And with that, I will hand it off to Courtney, Senior Planner with Washoe County. Thank you.
Do I have to touch anything? Okay. Good afternoon, Courtney Weike, a Senior Planner with Washoe County. So I am here to present on a request for an amendment to the Washoe County Tahoe area plan. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. The request is to amend the Tahoe Area Plan Appendix A, Development Code Standards, Article 220 Tahoe Area, to add single-family dwellings limited to airspace condominiums as an allowed use in Incline Village Commercial Regulatory Zone, Special Area 1. And to amend Article 220.15 to add reference to existing Tahoe area plan Land Use Policy 2-9, which states single-family dwellings shall only be allowed in the Incline Village Commercial Regulatory Zone when they are a part of a mixed-use development or when they are affordable housing units. Next slide, please. Little bit of background, Jacob Stock just actually mentioned this, but the Tahoe area plan was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners in January of 2021. It was adopted as a master plan amendment incorporating the Tahoe area plan thereto, and adopted an amendment to the development code incorporating basically Appendix A, which is Article 220 Tahoe area plan, and Article 220.1 Tahoe area design standards. In May of 2021, the TRPA governing board adopted the Washoe County Tahoe area plan and amendments as necessary to the TRPA code ordinances. In late 2021, the county received an application for a special use permit to develop a 40-unit multifamily project on 2 properties in the Incline Village Commercial Special Area 1 regulatory zone. It was later determined a special use permit was not required for a multifamily dwelling in this regulatory zone as it was an allowed use. Subsequently, the applicant submitted a tentative map to subdivide the proposed multifamily dwelling project into single-family dwelling condominiums. It was at this time that it was discovered by both TRPA and county staff that single-family dwellings, even as condominiums, were not an allowed use in Special Area 1, even though it is allowed in the broader regulatory zone of Incline Village Commercial. As a result, in July of 2022, the same applicant submitted a development code amendment application WDCA 22-002 to the county to add single-family dwellings limited to condominiums as an allowable use in the Incline Village Commercial Special Area 1 regulatory zone. For the county, the requested amendment only impacts the development code as the county adopted Appendix A Development Code Standards of the Tahoe Area Plan separately from the master plan into the development code. Since TRPA adopts the whole document as one area plan, the same request for TRPA purposes is a area plan amendment. In November of 2022, the Washoe County Planning Commission reviewed the proposed amendments to Washoe County Code Chapter 110 Development Code Article 220 and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the amendment to the Board of County Commissioners. In December of 2022, the Board of County Commissioners introduced and conducted a first reading for Bill 1888, an ordinance amending the applicable sections of the development code as I have discussed. In January 17th of 2023, the Board of County Commissioners held a public hearing and conducted a second reading for Bill 1888 and adopted ordinance number 1696, which amended Washoe County Code Chapter 110 in Article 220 Tahoe area. All of these meetings were open to the public and appropriately noticed. Next slide, please. The county did require that the applicant host a community meeting prior to any of the Washoe County required public hearings. The applicant held a community meeting on August 22nd, 2022. A total of approximately 3,200 individual email recipients received the meeting invitation. 34 people were in attendance. Public comment included a mix of both support and opposition for the proposed amendment. Many of the comments focused on a specific project known as 947 Tahoe, which was the project that I discussed earlier and the impetus for the requested amendment. Next slide, please. Just for reference, the Special Area 1 is outlined here in red and is within the Incline Village Commercial Regulatory Zone. Special Area 1 parallels Tahoe Boulevard. It begins on the east side at Southwood Boulevard and extends to the west boundary at 836 Tahoe Boulevard. It encompasses roughly 1 to 2 parcels deep or adjacent from Tahoe Boulevard. Next slide, please. So the actual, the text change or amendment to the area plan is shown in red here. So what the request would, or what the amendment would do would add single family dwelling as an allowed use with 1 unit per parcel, subject to, and you'll see the asterisk there, only when associated with an approved tentative subdivision map of a multifamily project into airspace condominiums. So in other words, single family detached dwellings are still prohibited. This would be limited to airspace condominiums. Next slide, please. The second portion of the request would add reference to existing land use policy LU 2-9 of the Tahoe area plan, clarifying that this policy will apply to all of Incline Village commercial, including special area 1. And I did start that in my presentation stating it, but I'll repeat it here. This would add the policy requiring that single family dwellings shall only be allowed in the Incline Village commercial regulatory zone when they are part of a mixed use development or when they are affordable housing units. With that, that concludes my presentation and overview of the requested area plan amendment, and I can answer specific questions as necessary.
Mr. Chairman, this is John Hester. Just wanted to point out again that we're just looking for input from the ARPIC members today. It's not a decision.
Yep.
So if you, Mr. Chair, have input from the members now or after public comment, that's what all that we're looking for.
Any board member comments? Committee member comments? Shelley?
Thank you, Vince. So for Washoe County staff, reading in the memorandum that we received from Washoe County, it did indicate under background information that the applicants indicated at the time of their application, their desire to eventually subdivide these multifamily dwellings into airspace condominiums. Is that correct?
Well, at this time, the amendment before TRPA is specific to the special area 1 addition of single family dwellings. It is my understanding that the applicant to the county for the development code amendment is intended to provide the option for a project within special area 1 the ability to apply for a tentative subdivision map of a previously approved multifamily dwelling project by TRPA, I believe late last year.
Right. All I'm trying to establish, I think, is that when this application was made to Washoe County, as of October 8th of 2021, the county was aware of the applicant's intent to eventually subdivide these multifamily dwellings into airspace condominiums. I'm just trying to, that's what's in the report. So I'm just trying to establish that on the record, because I think some people may have misunderstood that this was always, as I understand it, the intent of the developer, that this was never an affordable housing project. I know there are folks in Incline Village who would like it to be affordable housing, but I don't believe that was ever the intent of a developer. So I'm just trying to determine whether or not there were any blatant misrepresentations by the applicant of any sort.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. In regards to the application in October, that was when it was determined that the special area 1 uses are not in addition to all of the uses allowed in the broader Incline Village commercial regulatory zone, instead are separate from and independent. And that was when we determined that we could not accept the tentative subdivision map because single family dwellings were not permissible. So that has been the intent specific to that project from the beginning when they first applied for a multifamily dwelling project via special use permit.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mr. Settlemyre.
All right, go ahead.
That discussion, I'm a little bit concerned. I guess I need a little bit more background information because I'm not familiar with it, but it really seems to, so would this be going just forward? Or does that include the project that was being discussed? Because it seems to me they have a pretty good case of reasonable detrimental reliance. If they were denied, and that's where I'm a little concerned.
I'll take that one. No, the applicant was well aware that there was not the ability to subdivide when the application for the original multifamily came before TRPA. It was discovered, during that process that they were going to have to do something in the future to allow them to subdivide an existing structure. So there's no detrimental reliance on a promise some sort of promise that there was the ability to subdivide. This would add that ability to the area in which the project is located. That makes
Some sense.
some sense.
All right, thank you with
Is
that.
or I can clarify that if.
This is James Settlemeyer again. I'll have to follow up more offline and do my own
Okay.
research and figure it out. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, then I guess we'll go to public comment on this item. If any member of the public wishes to address the committee on this agenda item, please raise your hand now, either in person or by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or by dialing *9 on your phone, and you'll be called on and unmuted by a TRPA staff member. Do we have any public comment in person or online?
Mr. Chair, we have one in person.
Great.
Good pre-evening. Feldman, on behalf of 947 Tahoe, the applicant that has started this ball rolling, I wanted to thank Courtney Wakey and Jacob Stock for their assistance in this. And Shelley Aldine's comments were completely accurate. This project was approved as a multifamily residential project by TRPA in June of 2022. And in the fall of 2021, when the application was made, it was unknown to the applicant, to I think various staff members, that single family use was not an allowed use within this special area. And that's fairly unique within the urban areas in Tahoe. I certainly have processed a number of these projects through the years. And typically, our process is a two-step subdivision. First, it gets approved as a multifamily residential project, which is how this project was submitted, with full disclosure that it was intended to be condominiumized. And it was later discovered that there was a policy in the original community plan from the 1990s that was carried forward into the area plan, quite frankly, with really no review or comment. But upon further investigation, and as you looked at the map that was shown earlier, it was the intention of the planners, and there's some evidence in the record to this effect from a former TRPA staff member, Andrew Strain, that the intention was not to prohibit condominiumization of a multifamily residential project, as is the custom and practice in the basin, but to prohibit a lot and block subdivision, which would be inappropriate along Tahoe Boulevard in this urban core. And so there was a disconnect. It's created a little bit of stress and struggle. But we are pleased that Washoe County has embraced the proposed amendment and look forward to the process continuing through RPIC and hopefully APC and the governing board. I would be pleased to answer any questions that you may have and appreciate the late hour people are putting in during a snowstorm.
Great. Any other in-person or online comments?
Mr. Chair, there's another in-person commenter.
Great.
Okay. Oh, I guess I'm live. Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody. My name is Royal Kukoff. I'm a local businessman and homeowner in Incline Village. I arrived in Incline Village in 1970, 9 years old. Grew up there, went to school there, raised my 3 daughters. And I've seen many changes to our town over those years, as you can imagine, some good, some bad, but 947 Tahoe mostly definitely lands on the good side of the ledger. I'm voicing my strong support for 947 Tahoe project plan amendment to allow for condominium ownership, because this form of ownership will benefit our local community to bring full and part-time owners into our community versus transient long-term renters, which has already been approved for rental, I think, not for ownership. That's the difference. The project has already been approved for rental, MFD form of ownership. No short-term rentals will be allowed at the project per the HOA CCNRs. The amendment process is necessary to update the old and outdated development code by allowing the condominium form of ownership. And as stated, Washoe County Commissioners approved this last month. Incline Village needs this investment to help our local economy, environment, community. For too long, these two parcels for more than 20 years has been sitting there dormant and stagnant. I grew up with the respective families of the business that used to be there. The Parsons family, Stanley's Restaurant, Parks family, where the Chevron gas station used to be. The only decision here is whether units are for sale or for rent. And I'm advocating it is a for sale project, pride of ownership, rather than transient long-term rentals. I don't understand why ownership would be questioned here. The developer is also a longtime community resident, philanthropist. He's also in the planning process on an affordable housing project in another location that he already owns in Incline Village. So Incline Village wins twice. What's to argue? I'm voicing my strong support for 947 Tahoe project amendment to allow for a condominium form of ownership. It will directly deliver the greatly needed investment in environmental improvements to our community and is in alignment with the Tahoe area plan. Thank you again for your leadership and your time today.
Any other in-person or online comments? All right.
Hi, Randy Fleischer. Thank you all for staying so late tonight. And Courtney and Jacob, thank you guys for your hard work on this. Again, I'm Randy Fleischer. I'm one of the co-developers on 947 Tahoe. Really, because the hour is late, I'll keep my comments very short. The project was unanimously approved as for rent multifamily. It met all the TRPA requirements in terms of environmental, in terms of reduced trip usage. So all the criteria. Really, my point is there's really no difference between multifamily and condominium in terms of use as affecting the lake. It's fully in line with the regional plan in terms of walkability and using the bike paths and all those things. So I hope that this informational session gives you the information that you need to allow to move forward with the Tahoe area plan. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, we have a few hands raised online.
Great. All right.
Stacy Hannah, if you unmute, you can address the committee.
Hi, I'm Stacy Hannah, and I strongly support the 947 project and the development code amendment for the allowed use of condominium form of ownership. I've been a resident of Incline Village since 1979. My retired fireman husband and I have raised our family in Incline, volunteered our time to local organizations, and have grown our business right here. We are a permanent part of Incline Village and care about our community. I'm currently representing 947 Tahoe. The amendment allows for the sale of 40 condominiums with permanent residents. The 947 Tahoe will be built with a sense of place, fitting into our community, as well as creating a more walkable town corridor. There's an urgent need for newly constructed condos and homes in our area, with housing needs at all levels. Currently, buyers are purchasing workforce housing and extensively remodeling these units. Once these condos and homes are back on the market, they're too expensive for our workforce, whether they're purchasing or renting. The resale value of these remodeled units make them unobtainable for our workforce. 947 Tahoe can change this by creating condominium units that buyers want. Centrally located, walkable, and bikeable, 947 Tahoe is a place for every generation. There's a significant amount of interest in purchasing these units, with many potential owners already homeowners in Incline Village. Residents of Incline want to grow old in our village. They need walkability, convenient underground parking, and ease of maintenance, and especially elevators. 947 Tahoe is fully entitled for 40 apartments for rent, and I'm in favor of ownership amendment. Our community needs to address our housing shortage and especially needs to create solutions which leave the current workforce housing in place. I strongly support the 947 Tahoe project and the development code amendment to allow for condominium form of ownership. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the next hand up is Sue Lowe. Sue, if you unmute, you can address the committee.
Thank you. Thank you to the members of the TRPA and for your continued leadership. My name is Susan Lowe. I've been a 45-year resident of Lake Tahoe and have raised 2 children here. I started my career in the casino business and then went into the real estate business. I'm the president, co-owner, and corporate broker for Chase International Real Estate. We have offices around the entire basin, Truckee, Reno, and Carson Valley. We employ over 70 people and have over 350 agents in our region. I'm here to voice my strong support for the 947 Tahoe project and incline and the development code amendment to allow for the condominium ownership. We are in dire need of housing inventory in all income levels. We are experiencing historic low inventory levels in all of our region marketplaces. This project will help address the housing shortage by adding 4 new living units at town center. In addition, as previously stated, the developer, Randy, who just spoke, is a community residence, and he is planning on a affordable housing project for our community. This project also implements the goals of the Tahoe area plan to concentrate development in the town center and create walkable communities. It reduces trip generation by 1,500 daily vehicle trips and vehicle miles traveled. It contributes over 45 million across 2 years to the local economy for annual taxes, job created, new economy activity, and of course, housing. It reduces dependence on autos and parking demand with the direct access to the bike and walking path trails. It certainly increases property values and attracts more investment. It helps address the housing, well, I already said that. It upgrades stormwater management controls, and it enhances the community vibrance and connectivity. As stated before too, the only issue here is whether it's going to be for rent or for sale. And I'm advocating that it is for sale that would benefit the community and the environment. I've been an active member of this community, and I'm voicing my strong support of 947 and for the project amendment to allow the condominium form of ownership. We need this, and we thank you all for your time and consideration for this amendment.
Thank you. Anyone else with their hand up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, next hand up is Doug Flaherty. Doug, if you unmute, you can address the committee.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. We've got a red herring going on here. There's lots of mention about 947 Tahoe, 947 Tahoe. Yes, that is a project. It's at the corner of Southwood and 28. It's one parcel or 2 parcels, yet the developer asked for an extended coverage amendment that affects the area plan for, I believe, I haven't got my notes in front of me, but 30 some odd parcels. Why didn't the developer simply go through a similar process to ask for a variance for this particular corner? Instead, they asked for the ability to completely do away with the potential for workforce housing by adding this amendment area plan, special area 1 throughout and up and down the main highway of 28. I hope this committee considers you have it within your power to simply say, okay, you want to do 947 Tahoe, then we'll approve a area plan amendment for these two parcels, rather than a developer-driven request to transform the entire special area 1 into condominiums, single-family condominiums that basically, whether they state it or not in the CC&Rs, those can be changed. That's going to be a continued glide path to short-term rentals. So right now, the far-reaching special area 1 amendment greatly diminishes the solution opportunities for workforce achievable and affordable housing throughout the entire Incline Village special area 1. Let's limit it to 2 parcels. Runs counter to the goals and policies of the area plan, encouraging affordable, moderate, achievable employee housing by removing 1 out of 3 preferred areas to achieve this preferred purpose, and continues to perform a glide path for increased numbers of short-term rentals. So as we go through this process, I urge the TRPA, its committees, to take this into consideration. It's a very extended request based on a developer wanting to basically build on 2 parcels. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Next hand up is Kathy Julian. Kathy, if you unmute, you can address the committee.
Thanks very much. Just offhand, I note that a number of realtors have commented in support of the zoning change, and somehow there is some bias against renters in some of these comments. Please, I hope TRPA is focused on the need for rental housing for our workforce. This is critical. We cannot at this stage be supporting a zoning change in our commercial area that discourages workforce housing, and in particular, rentals. Now, I completely agree with the previous speaker who suggested that why don't they simply limit this zoning change to these 2 parcels and let alone the other areas of our commercial centers for the development of truly mixed use workforce housing. I mean, with this zoning change, a number of people in this community, and far beyond the 34 that showed up at that meeting, are concerned that this zoning change will result in commercial area properties in that flatland of Incline increasing in value because you can build $2.5 to $5 million condos, which those 40 units will be sold for $2.5 to $5 million. So it is hardly contributing to the really necessary housing inventory for Incline Village at those rates. Small businesses will find it even more difficult to develop their businesses in our commercial area when developers will want to build luxury condos. And finally, the zoning change will do nothing to encourage affordable workforce housing. It will certainly make it more difficult to incentivize rental housing, which we so desperately need. And please understand, renters are not scumbags of the Tahoe Basin. They are your vital network of employees. And we need professionally managed rental properties so that these people can be properly housed in areas that can benefit from the walkability that you mentioned and from the proximity to stores and commercial centers. So thank you very much. And I would just hope that you folks look at this zoning amendment with a closer eagle eye on it and really parse it so that you can satisfy what the developer needs, but nonetheless don't undermine the incentive for workforce housing in Incline Village. Thank you very much.
Next hand is Helen N. Helen, if you unmute, you can address the committee.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name's Helen Neff. I'm a resident of Incline Village. Whew, it's a long day. And I'm actually a neighbor close by to this project. And since the first neighborhood meeting, which was held in January 21, I told the developer I'm not against this project. I'm not against something being built on that corner, but there's so many issues. And like the previous speakers, just wondering why this is a complete Washoe County Tahoe area plan change. The plan was created by the community. The purpose of the area plan was to implement what was the character and vision expressed by the community, and that included affordable workforce housing and a safe pedestrian bicycle network. And neither of those have been accomplished. Nothing is on the table for either of those. The many letters included in the board packet are in favor of one project, this 947 Tahoe condominiums, and not an entire development code change. It's just bewildering why one project located at the far end of the commercial zone requires a wide sweeping change for the entire district. The intersection at where this development is being proposed is rated F. I talked about that earlier. I don't want to go over that again. It needs attention before construction vehicles are brought in, before residents are brought in. The condominium is being sold as pedestrian friendly. I tell you from personal experience, it is not pedestrian friendly. We need to think about the safety of the people, no matter how much they're spending or how little they're spending on a project. The restricting short-term rentals in the CCRs is not enough. If this project goes forward, it does need to be in the deed. And then one other thing, the county is proposing that it be approved as a mixed-use development. It has, I don't know how many square feet of condominiums and 900 square feet of commercial area. I think there does have to be a definition of what mixed use is, or you are going to see all commercial space in this zone eliminated and high-end luxury condominiums built. So again, I feel for these developers. I understand what they're going through. I'm not against development, just smart planning for our village. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments?
I know. Sorry, Mr. Chair, we have a couple more in the room and online. I'm going to do the online and then come back to the room. Rhonda Tyser, if you unmute, you can address the committee.
Thank you. As you're hearing, I and most Incline residents are not against the 947 development and sincerely wish the project developers well. Although there are many valid Incline resident complaints that should be taken into consideration, the project itself could, with a few changes, be a plus for Incline Village. These changes would ensure that the development does not further load infrastructure and it truly contributes to Incline as a village. A compromise that could be made so that this project can move forward with the support of the entire community, many of whom are concerned about the long-term consequences of changing the Washoe Tahoe area plan. These consequences have been well explained to you in previous meetings and our public input, so I won't repeat them here. One of our greatest concerns is that such condos will eventually be used as short-term rentals rather than for actual resident housing. If this possibility could be eliminated, many Incline residents might support this and future development in our town center. Addressing this concern just requires all condominiums within special areas in Incline to be deed restricted upon sale, so that they may not be rented out for less than 4 months at a time. It's If, as the 947 developer claims, after long discussions with prospective buyers, that these buyers do not want to use the condos as STRs, then there should be no reason not to deed restrict these condominiums from the get-go. Thank you for considering or reconsidering the change to the Washoe Tahoe area plan and for effecting the simpler solution of requiring airspace condominiums in inclined special commercial zones to be deed restricted to eliminate short-term rentals. Thank you.
Sir, in the room, did you want to comment?
Hello, my name is Scott Robbins. I'm a member of the South Lake Tahoe City Council, but again, my comments are my own and in my own individual capacity and not representative of the city council as a whole, nor are they reflective of the city government as an entity. I was not intending particularly to comment on this project. Incline's not in my home turf. I'm a South Lake resident and a South Lake representative. But a number of the things that came up in the other public commenters and from the developers, I thought warranted attention. The description from those involved in the project and some of those supporting the project of renters as being transients, I think is offensive. And I think as these projects are deliberated at the TRPA level and in those who are involved in zoning, those should be considered. I am a renter. I cannot afford to buy a house in the city of South Lake Tahoe, and I have tried. I'm still working on it. And I don't think I would consider myself a transient. I'm an elected representative of the people of the city of South Lake Tahoe. I have served in search and rescue, and I have been a community advocate for more than half a decade. I think I am a valid member of this community as much as anyone who can afford to own a home, and certainly as much as a second homeowner. So when we consider projects like this going forward, and I'm really not here to be pro or con about these particulars of this particular project, but when we consider the value of the lives of those who rent homes in our community in order to live here because they cannot afford to buy them, I think those voices and those lives matter, and they are relevant to our community. They are the people who form the basis of our economy, and they are the people who serve the drinks, who serve the food, who cook our meals, who serve the tourists, who load the lifts, who run the snowmaking, who teach the ski lessons, who rent the boats, who serve the tourists. And the idea that those are somehow lesser people, that those are merely transients and not worthy of protection and consideration is offensive. So when these projects are considered, and when we're thinking about how they will impact the rental market, impacts that reduce the availability of rental housing that is often the only kind that is affordable to the majority of the people who actually live here, that should be a top consideration. That's not a negative. It's not a good thing to eliminate rental housing. It is not merely a positive to say, well, we should all have pride in ownership, therefore we should get rid of rental housing. So I urge this committee and this organization to consider the full spectrum of the people who live here. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, there are no further hands raised to make public comment.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for your comments today. All right, with that, we'll close public comment and see if there are any other comments from committee members. Anyone have anything else?
Mr. Chair, I was just going to see if staff wanted to respond to any of the public comments
Okay,
that came
great.
up.
And then I see Shelley has her hand raised, so
Okay.
after staff. Does the staff have any?
Automatically. Okay, Courtney Wyke, Senior Planner. I was trying to take note on some of the public comment that may need to be clarified, and So I'll do my best to address some of those, although I may not be able to address all of them. This has actually been brought up at the Washoe County public hearings or meetings regarding the direction that we went in with the application to allow for single-family dwelling condominiums within special area, to allow for those in all of special area 1. There was actually a couple of different approaches that we discussed along with TRPA staff on how we could potentially allow or support for that use to be allowed in that area. To restrict it or to only allow it on these 2 parcels related to the project that we've been discussing lends itself to spot zoning. Really in maybe Mr. Stock or Jacob Stock may want to jump in here, but the special areas in general, at least to my understanding, were intended to provide additional uses or different standards within a broader regulatory zone. And in a sense, if we were to only address or allow for single family dwellings on these 2 parcels, we'd almost be creating another special area within a special area, because you're looking at only allowing certain uses on 2 parcels. And that just is not something that the county was willing to support. And when in some of this will come out as part of the initial environmental checklist and conformance review checklists and all the other TRPA environmental documents, the county's position is that allowing the or adding single family as a permissible use to the list of allowed uses in special area 1 is furthering the goals of mixed use development, walkable communities, having residential uses and commercial uses within the town centers. And so this is not prohibiting affordable housing. There is actually no impact on whether or not a person or a property owner wants to develop affordable housing. Instead, this is adding the option for property owners throughout all of special area 1, the ability to pursue a single family dwelling limited to condominium only if it is a part of a mixed use project or is an affordable housing unit. That is the only use that actually has that requirement. Let me just check on my notes here. If there was there was also a comment, why didn't they do a variance? A variance would not address this sort of request. Variances, at least for the county's sake, is specific to certain standards, variance for maybe a setback or a height limitation. And go ahead, Jacob. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add to that for those who are, you know, not familiar with the TRPA system, or maybe less familiar, that we're sort of in a unique position of not being able to grant variances because of our threshold requirements. So that's another reason why a variance would not be an option.
Great.
Yeah, with that, I think that that's at least the questions that I felt the county could respond to. If there are further questions, I'm happy to try to clarify.
Great. Thank you so much. I see Shelley has her hand raised. Shelley?
Yeah, Courtney, thank you for that. Tearing off of that discussion, it was also brought up that considering the size of the project with the 40 units, there's a relatively small amount of commercial. So I presume that Washoe County's code does not include some sort of ratio with respect to commercial square footage versus residential use.
Courtney Wyke, Senior Planner for the record, Washoe County. Thank you for that comment. I believe both TRPA as well as Washoe County is well aware that this is something that we would like to see clarified and have a ratio. Unfortunately, my understanding, and TRPA staff, correct me if I'm wrong, both the county and TRPA don't have necessarily, we have a mixed use definition, but we don't necessarily have the a ratio or what specifically makes a project mixed use. Is it 200 square feet of commercial versus, 4 residential units, or what is mixed use? And the Washoe County will be pursuing a broader Washoe County area plan amendment, likely within the next year, in the coming months, addressing some additional other concerns which include housing issues. And mixed use is high on that list, specifically because this project has brought to light that is something that we need to define in order to see these mixed use projects meet the goals of the area plan, and specifically within the special area 1, which requires, if somebody was to pursue single family dwellings, mixed use or affordable housing components.
No, I would encourage you to do that. I mean, 225 square feet, that's less space than a Subway shop. And I think the objective, as I understand it, for mixed use projects is to reduce the necessity of people occupying these units to having to travel any distance for, some basic goods and services. I mean, that's the objective. It's kind of an opportunity for them to shop where they live, so to speak. So I think in furtherance of that objective, I think both TRPA and Washoe County and the other jurisdictions need to take a hard look at what that ratio should be. And then I don't want to prolong things, but I did have one last question for Lou Feldman, if he's still in the audience.
He is.
Lou, I had a question about the restrictions on STRs. Obviously, it's a hot topic. And we heard it, the concern repeated numerous times. And as I understand it, there is no deed restriction. All there is just a prohibition in the CCNRs, but CCNRs can be amended. So did the developer consider deed restricting these to prevent short-term rentals?
Thanks for that comment. Lou Feldman again on behalf of 947 Tahoe. I think that's a topic of conversation that we will have before the next meeting is convened, and I can report back on that. But certainly the intention was to prohibit STRs through the CCNRs, but whether or not there's a more aggressive opportunity to address that, stay tuned.
I would appreciate that. Thank you, Lou.
Great. Thank you, Shelley and Lou. Any other questions or comments? I have to scroll through all our people, but I can't see anyone in person. So if anyone's raising your hand, just speak up. Hearing no one, I will assume that we are done. And since this was informational only, we'll move on. No vote is required. We are skipping the housing section, the housing item that was on the earlier agenda, and move on now to agenda item number 7, committee member comments. Oh,
Before you do that, because
public.
we may have some members
Oh, that's right.
who
Okay.
have been waiting to comment on this, even though we're going to table it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You had asked me about that and I completely forgot. So sorry about that. So if anyone is here to comment on the agenda item that we're skipping, which was the proposed code amendments to the achievable deed restricted category definition, please raise your hand, either in person or on Zoom.
Mr. Chair, there are no hands raised to comment on this item.
Okay, great. Well, then we will move on and go back to committee member comments. So are there any committee members with questions or comments? Can't see any online. Anyone in person? If you are, please speak up. All right. Hearing none, our final matter of business is general public interest comments. Any member of the public wishing to address the Regional Plan Implementation Committee on any item listed or not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Individuals or groups who have already commented on items listed on the agenda are not permitted to comment on that same topic. The Regional Plan Implementation Committee is prohibited by law from taking immediate action on or discussing issues raised by the public during this public comment period. So if any member of the public wishes to speak at this time, please raise your hand now, either in person or by clicking the raise hand at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 on your phone, and you'll be called on and unmuted by a TRPA staff member. So do we have any public interest comments?
Mr. Chair, we have one hand raised online. Doug Flaherty, if you'd like to address the committee, you can unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is not a comment regarding a specific agenda item. It's a brief hypothetical opinion. And that is, my hypothetical opinion is that a county, Washoe County, along with the TRPA, have the ability to remove parcels from special area designations in the area plan. Thank you very much.
All
Mr.
right,
Chair,
thank you.
there are no other hands raised to comment on this item.
All right, then we will close public comment period. And now our last item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
We'll move.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We are now adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, Vince. Good
And
job.
thanks for your help, everyone, for coaching on my first meeting, unfortunately remote.